Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical, where we talk about the mental, emotional, social, and at times spiritual benefits of exercise. We believe that exercise is more than movement, and this podcast is our attempt at sharing that message with the world by sharing our own as well as our guests' experiences and knowledge. If you enjoy it, we ask that you please spread the message by leaving a rating and review, or even better, by sharing with a friend.
How many times a week do you train?
7 times.
Every day?
So I do 6 days of weight. This is not advice for anyone now that I know we're running. Not advice. I wouldn't do it. So it's 6 days a week weight training, push-pull legs, 3 double rotation, and then Sunday I do cardio. So that's like probably like 5Ks on the treadmill, then skipping, and like I was doing 7 days a week weight training, but I was like, that's even too much.
Why do you do the cardio?
So I can not weight train for one day.
Okay.
It's not really my favorite thing, but it's actually quite good.
But mentally you find it difficult to absolute rest?
So I'm trying to do 2 years with no rest.
Oh really? You're doing a streak? Bro, I think Chad actually told me about this.
Yeah.
This is fucking cool.
So I'm on a streak. I'm on 700, so I've got the 2nd of Jan 2025 will be 2 years.
He's got to train on the 2nd of Jan to like complete it.
Dude,
he started on New Year's Day, so like he's got to like...
Yeah, the first day that I missed was the 1st of Jan 2023.
So you missed a day?
No, so that was the day I missed that started the streak, was 1st of Jan.
Because he was hungover from like jawling.
Oh shit.
And then he was like, no, I'm gonna do a streak.
So I said to myself, I'll start the new year and I'm going to get like a month of training done in the new year because you get an award for training every day in the month. So I thought, okay. So I did that. So I missed the first day and I was like, oh crap. So I'll start on the 2nd. And then I trained from the 2nd until the 2nd. I thought, but it's a calendar month and not 30 days. So I was like, shit, I've got to now do it again for the next month.
Yes.
And then after that, I was like, I can't believe I wasted that whole first month because I missed one day because I was so hungover. So I said, no, that can't happen. I need to change my mindset to break through weakness like that. And then I was going for a year, and then a year felt too easy. So I was like, add one more year onto it. So I'm gonna stop at 2. I'm gonna do 1 rest there, and then I'll go back to 6 days a week. So I'll do Monday to Saturday, and then I'll rest Sunday.
How do you manage your recovery with such an intense training schedule?
So,
what are your recovery protocols? Do you drink alcohol?
No. At
all?
On occasion I do. On occasion.
What is on occasion? How often is that?
Once every 3 months or so at this point.
And is that like balls to the wall, or is that one drink?
10 o'clock he goes on.
It's a couple of drinks. It'll probably be, if I'm having beer, maybe like 8 beers or so.
8?
Yeah.
Bro, that's a lot, man.
Not drafts. I'm talking but it's I'm in bed quite early. And I'm still trying to eat during that. That's like a big thing. Obviously, when you drink, you tend to get full, so you don't eat. So I'm trying to still force feed to make sure I'm getting those nutrients. And then, like I say, it's once every 3 or so months, if that. It's something that I wasn't doing a lot before this training regiment, but then trying to train hungover is just nightmarish. And then your recovery is slow, your sessions are weak. So I need to hit 65 minutes in the gym and 650 calories active. That's like when I can close the...
Does that
drinks.
count? So
that's
to
the day.
continue the streak,
Yes.
you've got to do either 65
And
both.
yeah.
Bro, that is hardcore.
So I train about 80, 90 minutes a day.
Fuck, that's wild, bro.
So yeah,
that's very
It's
impressive.
about 1,000 some change active calories per day is what I'm like averaging.
And
at
he's
the
done this like sick. He's done it where like I'm like, bro, you shouldn't move. And like, dude, we were so sick this one, like, there was this 1 week where we were so sick. I walked into his house and he's like, he never misses work. He was like curled up on the couch in a ball. And like, I brought him meds and stuff. And somehow that day, he still like went for a walk that got him his like time and calories.
I did that day I did walking and stretching. Again, this is not advice for anyone. This is horrible for your health. I just took painkillers and like I've just pushed through it because it was just one day. So it's been really good. As I always say to everyone says like, oh, how much have you grown from it? I'd probably go more not doing this. This is not optimal for growth, for strength, for anything.
When you say growth, you mean muscle
growth, yeah. Mass on. But what it is good for me is from the mental side of things, because what it allowed me to do was, instead of seeing training as a chore, it was now just a part of who I was. So I didn't wake up every day thinking, oh, I still need to train. It was just the same way you wake up and eat breakfast. It was the same day I woke up and went to gym. So if you miss gym in the morning, it's not like, oh, maybe I missed today. It's just, okay, well, I'll go in the afternoon. It didn't become a question in my mind. It didn't become a conscious thing. It just became a part of who I was. And then it kind of flipped a switch for me that anything that I really want to do can just become a part of who I am. And then it takes that whole decision making out of it. So I don't have to negotiate with myself, do I go to gym? All that stress and that strain and energy that you expend is now gone.
And how do you how do you figure out your schedule so that it doesn't feel like a chore? Like, do you do it at the beginning of the day?
First thing I do. So
Okay.
I wake up at about 5 o'clock, and then I'll try to read so I don't have caffeine too early, like give it a bit of rest. And then I'm in the gym by sort of 5 to 6, 10 to 6, and out the gym by just after 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's first thing in the morning. If something comes up, then I will do it later, but I try to get it done, because then no one's going to pick up the phone and say you've got work to do, and now it's just easy. There's no commitments that I have. It's just before everyone's
What
up.
time do you go to bed?
By 10 o'clock I'm sleeping usually.
So you're getting around
7.
7 hours sleep.
Seven fixed. Anything more is a waste of time.
You think so?
No, just for me.
Okay.
I don't have enough hours in the day, so it's about 7 hours. If I'm lucky, I'll get 8, but no more than that ever.
And you feel like you don't get a proportional productivity benefit for minutes over 7 hours. Like,
Yeah.
because for instance, if I get, I suppose I agree with you. Like, I aim for 8 hours, but I feel like, to be honest, I'm pretty good with my sleep. I'll usually get like 7 to 8 hours, but like I almost think that 7 hours is something I can probably get by with.
Yeah.
And that I don't know if the increased time spent sleeping gives me a proportional or almost disproportional benefit productivity wise. So I almost may as well just claim that hour and work or like train.
Yeah, it's like diminishing returns on that.
Yeah, which I've been like thinking about a lot towards the end of this year, because I also obviously like play around with like exercising excessively. Like that is quite excessive, to be honest, but I can say that because I do the same. And like figuring out how do I want to like structure my life so that I can do that, because I like excess. Like if I enjoy a thing, fuck, I must do it 110%, because that's where all the like, I feel like all the good stuff is there. It's like you don't actually find a lot of fun and newness in like within the normal confines. I think you've got to really bridge the gap into something a little bit, kind of to the excess. So for me, it's like, I'm trying to optimize my sleep, but I want to recover because I'm putting my body under a lot of load. But like I suppose like 7 hours is probably.
You can also feel it. So, especially with my diet, with my training, with everything, I try and listen. I know people say listen to your body, but I can try and feel cool if I've slept a little bit less and I start feeling my head's a bit sort of clunky and I'm not feeling as optimal as I should be. Then I know, okay, well that wasn't enough sleep. Whatever that was, you need to up it a bit more. Same
There's
with
also like no variables in his life that aren't consistent. Like he's literally, the training is the exact same amount of time, the food is the exact same every day, there's no partying. So like if that stays consistent for 2 to 3 months and like you start feeling something changing, like either your calories are too low, you're not sleeping enough, like he only has
pinpoint
two things to decide on and then like problem solved, you know?
like
I
Makes
love
it a little
that, though.
easier.
It does make it a lot easier. One thing that I have found that challenges like living like that is difficult for me, or what I give up or sacrifice is like my social, like the social side of my life. I feel kind of struggles, and I'd like to hear for you, like how have you managed? Do you feel like socially deprived, or do you feel like you aren't socializing enough, or like how is your social life? How do you get your social life to mold into that very regimented schedule?
It's not going to be for most people, but I also don't mind that. So I'm quite introverted to begin with, so it's not difficult for me to force myself to stay in and not force myself to go out. Obviously, then having people like Mark, he says he's not extroverted, but wildly extroverted, and really he'll pull me out and to do certain things. So as long as I get that done, and my friends are quite understanding
Get
about
that done.
I have the exact same.
get my gym done. I don't mean get that. No, sorry. No.
Get the task done of having fun.
As long as I get like my routines in, then my friends are pretty understanding about who I am, and they'll work around and help me out, and it's good. That's why like I think Mark and I get along so well, even though we're very different in personality. It's because my shortfalls are his strengths. So I always like lean on my friends for that type of thing. Do I feel most people wouldn't probably do what I do, but I'm also unique in my mindset in that way. But I don't necessarily feel struggled or deprived from that, because I find a lot of enjoyment in what I do. It makes me feel fulfilled, and I think that's what I chase more than anything else, is just fulfillment. And training, work, all that kind of stuff is what I actually enjoy. I know people look at it and go, you can't do that, it's not what society says is right. It's what I feel personally, benefits me. So it's easy to do.
Yes, I think I'm in a similar boat to you, but I have still yet to be fully comfortable in that being me. And I find that what challenges me around it is the guilt aspect of not meeting people in terms of their expectations of like what society deems to be like a good friend or like a good partner or like a good whatever. It's like, I know they do understand, but like in my mind, I'm like, fuck, I've said no to like so many plans, and like I should just like do this thing, or like, you know, it often for me, like, it's funny because like the graft, like work, training, like learning, things like that, that all is like amazing and like I enjoy. And it's so weird because like the social part of my life often feels like the duty. Like that's what feels like the obligation, the thing that I must tick the box for, which I'm like trying to like restructure in my head. But it's also kind of like, I feel, what is the, like I understand like pure friendship is very different to like work interactions. But for me, like this is work. And now I'm connecting with people, having a really like stimulating conversation, scratching my social itch, and it's not disrupting my schedule.
Yep.
So it's weird that I'm like, my social battery's kind of flat now at 8 o'clock at night. Do I really need to like go for dinner and like do this thing?
My thing is
way more balanced.
Mine is not more balanced. Like I have intense spurts of like Jace, but like mine are always like I swing the one way and then I swing the other way. Like with diet, with work, with like going out, with like mine will be like 4 months of like I do not touch alcohol, I don't have sweets, I like don't, and it's like I'm journaling every night, I'm praying twice a day, I'm like everything's super structured, and then when that date comes, I like go the other way for a while. So it's like super boomerang.
It's like in sprints.
But it's planned boomerangs, you know? It's like I'm doing this for a week, but then I've done it. And it's like, that's how my life has gone, like my whole life. It's just like I'm very structured until the time comes when it's like that duty's done for a bit, you know?
Yes.
But like Jason's got like, he sticks to it for long periods where I need that like, I like, it's kind of just proving I can the whole time. It's like my friend says, I remember, I talk about it often, but like my one friend was like, Mark, your mind's so strong, but there's one thing that you'll never be able to stop, which is food. Like I love food. And then I was like 72-hour fast. And I just like, right then and there, I was just like in the moment, we're like at a party and I was like, I'm not going to eat for 72 hours. Like I'm doing a fast. So like, sometimes it's just to like show that I can, you know, not even to anyone else. It's like I sat there and I was like, maybe that does have a bit of control over me, you know, food does have a bit of a grasp on my being, you know, and then I just like, I have to sit there with myself and go, I'm doing this for me. If I'm doing it for someone else, it often falls away before the time comes, you know, like I'll say 3 weeks and it'll end in 2 because I'm like, that wasn't really for me, you know. So like that balance, you're talking about like that social side to it and feeling like a chore and all of that. But like I've had very much 99% of my success in business and health and everything is like the people I meet. And like it often happens in like the most random places, like when I'm having a beer out or like, so like my saying no to social things is often the repetitive stuff. Like I'm going to the same place with the same 5 people, then I can easily say no. But if it's like my friends want to do something, then like I often say like, let's try there, or like, let's go somewhere like completely new with a new environment. And like, even if it's not new people you're meeting, it's like you always thinking about different things, you know? Like if you're just working in the same space and the same thing all the time, it's not even the people you're not meeting. It's like you also just are, you're provoked by the same things every day. So like for me, it's always like those new experiences. To me, it's not work, but like I always come up with the best ideas, and I can like pivot to something and I like bring it to Jace, and then it creates like more thought, you know. But
yes,
so then it isn't a task. It's just like I've had these like, it's like triggers that say like this is the right thing, even if it doesn't feel like work. It's like it always creates more ideas somewhere.
Yeah, I think shaking up your environment and exposing yourself to different stuff definitely sort of stokes the fire of creativity, where it's like, okay, something kind of tickles your brain in a different way, and you have this like brain wave, and then you guys go and you chat about it, and you wouldn't have had that if you were sitting maybe in the office or wherever it is at home in the same environment, because you'd just be thinking things through like a loop, like the same kind of You know, and
Well,
obviously,
and having people like Jace, like especially, it's like, even if I have an experience with a bunch of idiots, like I come back and I'm like, that was a waste of my time. You wouldn't believe what they talked about or how they spoke about this or like the. Then we get chatting super deep, and then like just from that bad experience, it's like really like put me in a better perspective of like where we at, or like giving me new thoughts on how to target that audience, which isn't the way we think, you know. So it's like even from those bad experiences where it feels like a waste of time, if you have someone that like anchors it back and is like, well, how do we think around that? Then like nothing really is ever a waste of
Yes.
time, you know. Like we're constantly thinking and talking about business or health or goals or this or that. So like there's no experience if you have that like pillar to lean on. There's nothing really that you can't bring back to like either strengthening your beliefs or like actually opening your mind up to like
new stuff.
thoughts.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing of people say you either succeed or you learn. There's no fail. You learn. And what you were saying earlier, I don't know if it was on camera when you were talking about the injury, was that some exercises you'll feel that it's weak, and for you might be able to lift the weight the same way, it might not be as heavy. So you feel is it a failed set, or it's not as good as your usual exercises. And you actually kind of almost learn more from that, because then you realize where that weakness is. And if you overcome that side of things, then all your other stuff actually improves over and above. If you just focus on what... Yeah, it's feedback. So
it's feedback from your body.
It's exactly that. So it's the same concept as even if you meet people and you feel it's a waste of time, if you don't think about it again, then yes, it is. But if you think about it, I didn't really enjoy when they said that. Why? Now I'm starting to think. So it wasn't...
Jason is the why in my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We all need more Jason.
You go complain a bit to him, and then he's like, yeah, but why? And then you're like...
It's like, what about that made you feel weird?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think that was, like, uncomfortable or wasteful?
Yeah. If you go through life blindly and you don't question anything, you're wasting your own time. But if you question everything, why did that make me feel that way? Even if it's justified, even if it's not. To understand why that's happening is so important, and it's making you live your life 3 times over in terms of the benefit you get. You know, someone can live a long life or do a lot of travel, but if they don't understand what they're getting from that, it's not as beneficial as someone that's even just going down the road but chatting to 5 people and really taking their stories in. So when people say they're well-traveled, I always think, you know, what does that really mean? Because you can go to the place, but have you really questioned about why they're doing certain things and what intrigue you took from it? Not just, I went and experienced and forgot about. You know, what has it really changed in your life? What have you carried with to future generations? That's the travel part.
Sure.
You know?
Speaking of travel, I'm actually going to bring this back. I had a question, but you just kind of spurred on a different thought. Was, speaking of introspection around travel, I had such a profound experience when I went to Portugal. And the weird thing was, I was either going to go to my father's like home country, Congo, or I was going to go to Portugal. And the irony of that was that Portugal discovered the Congo, and then I ended up going there instead of like my homeland. And anyway, long story short, the lesson that I got, and it could have been because of that internal like thought process that I went there with, but the lesson that I got was like deeply rooted in colonialism and like social commentary on what different societies value. And I went there and I was like, wow, these people are like really proud of like how they pillaged and ruined and took over and like fucking just ransacked a whole bunch of places that, you know, were home to other people before that. And then I reflected on myself and I was like, it is so naive that I thought that they wouldn't be. Because would I not be proud if my country had gone and explored and seen these things and discovered in their kind of context new things? And I was like, shit, dude, I'm actually like thinking I'm so like aware, but I'm actually very, you know, I'm not like going and thinking, okay, shit, this like triggers me. You spoke about a trigger moment. Okay, this triggers me. I feel fucking uncomfortable. Why do they have statues of like literal colonizers? Like the stuff that happened, we all learned about it in colonial times was like awful. But they are like super proud of this thing. And I was like, first I was like angry and frustrated and triggered. And I was like, okay, but wait, why? And then I was like, okay, but what was the, you know, what does that mean to them? Why? How can it seem so opaque to me? Like it's only this thing. It can't be. You know, there's another perspective. What is that perspective? Oh, for them they were like pioneering new territories. For them they were reaching the moon. It was like the moon landing. I was like, holy shit, dude, we've discovered this like new place.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like really helpful. And it actually felt very healing for me because I was like, I've often had this like internal back and forth around my heritage, having a mother who comes from sort of colonial heritage, like white mom, Anglo-Saxon mom in South Africa, Afrikaans, British heritage, and then black father. And I'm like, shit, dude, I feel like so conflicted. Like I feel strongly about like like apartheid and stuff, but like that's a part of me, and like going through this whole internal dialogue. So a lot of that growing up, and always kind of having the defense up around racial issues and colonialism at school, and then going into like a super pro colonialism country, and it actually being this like beautiful, like full circle educational moment of like, yes, it's like difficult to face those things, but every like people who do that, like everything that has been done, like the person oftentimes not doing it because they think they're being bad or evil. You know, they have a different view on it, and yes, their view may have harmed something that's close to you, but at the same time, you must be able to like connect with that. And that was the first time I realized that travel can actually be an education, because I was like, oh shit, you know, there are so many different sides to this thing. And I think it's so important what you said, because I was like going through this holiday and I was bleak and I was grumpy, and I was like, why am I being grumpy? Why don't I actually just look at this as like an opportunity to reflect? Yeah. And then I thought it was awesome. I was like, oh shit, this is amazing. Like imagine what that must have felt like. Jeez, they're a proud people. They're an innovative people. Maybe it wasn't so good for Congolese homies back in the day, but like it's interesting to reflect on that, you know.
To them, that's their victors. They're putting up the people that won, and it doesn't necessarily mean won at you know, pillaging. For most people, they wouldn't have even seen what happened. They just knew we went to a country and we won the war that was happening there, and you know that these are victors that took us to win the war. So it's one of those things that happen. I mean, if you look at, for example, someone gets a promotion at work. Someone else got passed up for that promotion for that person to get it. So for that person, they're going, oh, this is amazing, I've been promoted. And someone else says, well, I've just been passed up. Every situation is contextual and nuanced through someone else's perspective. And yes, there are things that we can objectively say in hindsight are not great. But at the time, people weren't fed the same information and, you know, weren't told the same story. So they could only go with the story of what it was. And their attachment now in hindsight is still the story that was expressed and not the story from another person's perspective.
Sure.
But for us, it's good to understand it, even if we don't agree with it, even if we think, if we take both sides, that's still something objectively wrong, or subjectively, I suppose still, but it's still wrong. It gives you a lot more light into how things happen and why things happen.
Yes.
And it stops you from painting everyone as either good or bad or evil, you know, so then you can start to see people with a bit more understanding about why they perform certain actions, and yourself in that same regard. Because then you don't think of yourself as this hero, you think, oh, I make mistakes, and that's fine to make mistakes because everyone makes mistakes, and that's human nature. And you become a bit more palatable in everything that you do and a bit more patient. So I think
it's like you in the Gulag archipelago, like what you describe as like literally anyone could have been on one side and anyone could have been on the other. And it wasn't like you are bad, you are good. Like if you were on the side of bad, you were bad. You know, if you were on the side of good, you were the ones getting the shit beaten out of you. You know, for your whole life. But like it's not like you sat there going like I'm evil and I will torture humans. You know, like you were just on the side of like this is right and like I'm doing good by my country. You know. You were just in the scenario.
And it doesn't justify it, but it definitely...
It doesn't justify it at all. No.
It's definitely a very helpful, like, reflective thing to do, because it allows you to also release the I don't know, anything you have attached to it. It's like, ah, man, there wasn't like a...
I think it's just to think of from the outside. I think if you were in it, totally different.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
you were either being like, that's totally different, but from the outside to know as a person, like, I could have been that, and I could have been that, and I will never know unless I was in
there,
it.
yeah.
Like, I would never know, and you can't judge because you weren't there. Like,
sure.
if you said, no, I'm not doing the beating, you know, like you were the ones getting the beatings, and you know exactly how those guys feel. So it's like, do you really know what you would choose in that moment, right now, in like our comfortable lives?
No.
Like, you actually don't. So like, it's just to kind of give that perspective of like, I would never know, you know, I would never know, so who am I to judge on like most situations?
Yes.
You know?
I wanted to bring us back to kind of socializing as well, talking about social commentary. You guys clearly have very different views or like approaches rather to socializing and how you kind of fill your social cups. What is it about community and a mission around community that kind of like brought you guys together to build Sociable, formerly How?
Yeah, so
Like, how did you guys connect around that?
I mean, we literally connected around that idea. So Mark and I have known each other before we started the business, but we weren't particularly close. We weren't like best friends. We just, the one thing
We had
that
a friend group, but like we weren't friends within
you
it.
have- you have
It was
mutual
just like,
friends.
we knew each other, but the one thing we did connect over was business. We were both quite passionate about business. So Mark is the idea man through and through. He has 1,000,005 ideas a day. He would always pick up the phone and like, what do you think of this? Is this viable? And I'll say like, no, that's, the
I
market's
came
not
up
big
with
enough.
pre-workouts. Like I was like all over. When I was studying in Oz, he was at Stellenbosch, and like every business idea I had, I would be like on the phone to him. I like started a pre-workout. I started this. I started that, and then like the one thing we were just chatting about lots was like the feeling of being in a place where it felt like everyone around us had places to go and people to see and like things to do, and like we were both very lonely. Like we had our friends there, and like you can have friends around, but it doesn't mean you have like that sense of like belonging, like that like community aspect, you know. So like we kept on hearing the same issues like being told to each other, and then I like it just like sparked this thing of like, what if we could just connect us to things at our universities that people are doing? Like what if like we knew this meetup in the library was happening for this, or like we knew this touch rugby on the field, even though it wasn't part of the university, of like people just wanted to play and like we could join in, you know. So like it started with like us feeling that loneliness, and like we are a little bit more outgoing than the next guy, like a tiny bit. Like Jason and I still do things. So like I was just thinking, there's like the other half of the people who are worse off than us. Like they don't know anyone. They're like here from, I don't know, Timbuktu, and they're like sitting in Brisbane or Stellenbosch, where they absolutely know not a single human. So we just wanted to like kind of bring those people together and like give them like a place where you could meet and feel a part of something. Like, yeah, I think my side came, like I went to Stellies as well for 1 year, and like it was the worst year of my whole life. And anyone who knows me is like, I can't believe that was you.
What made it so bad?
Dude, I had no self-esteem, like zero, and like I would spend like 9 hours in my room a day watching series and like not leaving my bedroom, because it just gave me so much anxiety leaving my room, like intense social anxiety. Like I drove everywhere within Stellies. I never walked because it just felt like eyes on me, and like I don't know why. I just had like intense. I never made a single friend the whole year, which is like wild to know where I am now. But like I think that feeling like connected me to the people that go through that every day and like are not able to like step out there and do things. So like I think when I broke out of it and chose to put myself in difficult situations, like moving to Oz and like doing those things, I was like, I need to solve the problem that I felt, you know, which was like I just didn't have I couldn't do it, you know. I just
Too many
couldn't.
barriers, yeah.
It felt like there were just too many barriers, and I was alone. Like I had the nerdiest roommate, and he was going to play touch rugby like out on the grass in our res, you know, and I was like, I can't do that. Like I could not step out there, you know. So I just thought like if he could do it, like why can't I? Like I need to figure out how to. So mine came from like knowing what that felt like, that like intense loneliness, and like I needed to just fix it, you know.
Had you been very social before then?
I was very social.
So what do you think? What do you think took you into that space of feeling very like surveyed and watched? And
I think it was like this. I went through like these stages, like from grade 8 to grade 12. I went from like feeling very lonely again in grade 8. Like it's like big fish in small pond, then suddenly small fish in big pond, and now I have to work through all my social anxiety to get to where I was in matric, where like I was at the school, everyone knew me from like other schools, and like I was like big fish in a small pond, and like it really took a lot to get to that point, and I still had like social anxiety, and then being dropped in like the biggest pond ever, like Stellenbosch, like a whole university, like a nobody again. It just felt like it sucked everything I had worked so hard to break. It almost felt like a facade that I had to like work to put on, and then like having it all like stripped away and not knowing a single human in Stellies, it felt like I had no chance. Like maybe I would have worked through it over the 4 years. No, I definitely would have. Like you meet one, you meet two, you meet three, like you slowly break through it. But like, I think that whole like, I'd worked so damn hard to become who I thought I was, like strong and independent. Meanwhile, I wasn't at all. It just like, it kind of just sucked me dry, you know?
That's really interesting, and it's amazing that that's actually moved into like trying to alleviate that for other people.
Yeah.
And then how did you plug into the like?
I in my younger years was actually very outgoing. I was very promoted for a lot of nightclubs and club events. I was a big partier.
He was like shirts off,
You were
selling
a
rage
you were
passes.
a rage
Yeah.
agent.
Yeah, so
I saw that on your LinkedIn. Really?
yeah, so that was my previous life, and I was a bit. I would be out like 3 times a week. It was just from a young age. It's just what I was doing, and I was very social, and it was very much a case of not necessarily a facade, but I'm an all or nothing kind of person, as you can probably tell with the gym thing. So at that stage, I was not willing to be focused and productive and that kind of stuff. So I just lent myself into the party lifestyle, and sort of towards the end of my studies, my undergrad, I kind of pulled out of it because I was doing well at university, and I started taking responsibility of my life and feeling better, and like wanted a future and wanted a family to provide for. So I started pulling myself away from that, and then I started realizing that the things that I wanted to enjoy weren't necessarily readily available because I'd gone so hard in one aspect. And while everyone was still going out, and there was nothing against them, they probably started later than I did, so they're making up for lost time. But I wasn't doing the same thing, so I would wake up and I would still want to go do certain things and be active. And so when I was at studies, it was in my honours, and I was quite focused on studying and not too much on the partying side of things. And I really wanted to go play touch rugby, and I asked someone, how do I find this group? And he said, you get added to a WhatsApp group, and that eventually people just like fought on it a bit, and then some people left, some people joined, never really worked out. And I was feeling very frustrated that my only option was to keep working or to drink. There was no in between, and I felt that there had to be a better way to go about doing that. And then as we started bringing up the business and chatting to more people about it, the more it became very prevalent to me about how bad this was, and the more I started attaching to people's stories about what they felt and their lifestyle. People have said that they made their only friends through this, or that they had been in Cape Town, for example, for a couple of months and hadn't met anyone because they just didn't know how, and then they met people through the app. And so when I heard things like that, it really reinforced the vision behind what we were doing. And beyond the community side of things, I think it's also opportunity. So, for example, we had an event just before in our last beta. We did like a 3,000 person event in Durban. It was a hike through the forest, and then there was like a DJ set in the forest, and then it went down to like a main stage, and about 3,000 people completely free, and all these artists gave their time and came and played for us, and it was amazing. And one of the guys came up, and I think we've told this on a previous podcast, but one of the guys came up to the people that was hosting it with us and gave him an Oros, and Karen, who is the host with us, said, what is this for? And the guy said, I come from a very impoverished background, and I never had the opportunity growing up to do something like this, and now I've brought my kids with me, and I always said one day I would hope to give them the opportunity I never got, and this gave me that. And
Jeez, that's powerful.
in hindsight, all I've got is this orange juice.
Yeah, dude, he
that's
came
what
and told me, I
I
cried.
still got goosebumps.
Jeez,
You can see.
bro.
It's like, so when you hear things like that and the opportunities that you can provide for people and the change that you can make in people's lives, I don't know how anyone doesn't have the vision that we've got, and it's something that's I will follow through until I know that it's made real change. It's something I've been thinking about quite a lot recently. Is we always think of innovation in the future as something that's actually negative towards us. It's something that's, when you think of like the future in the movies, it's always like ads everywhere and people with like bionic limbs and like everyone's, it's all the stuff that's not really human anymore. It's just taken, and we accept that that's what it is. To be innovative is to see how you can put a moving ad on an Uber Eats driver. That's like innovative now, and like cool, it is in some sense, but we ignore the fact that innovation can also be for us and change our lives and do something for us. And like people are so blinkered to that, and I want to be that change as well. Whilst everyone is doing that, and it's great, and it will improve in some aspects. Like, what about the improving in what we already have, and making that better with what we got? How do we connect people with the technology and not just keep them tied to their phones and actually pull them further apart? So that's kind of my vision behind what we're doing.
Yeah, I have a quick thought. I don't want to let it go away, but I haven't navigated the app enough to know. But do you guys have a sticker or a button for like alcohol free? So I think that'd be amazing.
So no, but
if there's like an event like on my, like I'm looking at the event and it's telling me the details, like I'll often look at like Chris's workouts. I think he has them on there.
Yeah.
And is there like display that has like this is a no booze event?
No,
'Cause-
but you could use a tag.
Never actually heard or like thought of that.
Because that's why I started First Thursday at the gym.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to socialize alcohol free, and I didn't like the pressure of like, oh, you're not drinking, are you cutting or some
Yeah.
weird shit. Like I just was like, no, I'm not doing that.
I think-
And you mentioned either booze or
all
something.
that. Within the app itself, you've got your categories. So obviously, party is a category which usually is very associated with alcohol, which is
Yes.
fine. Anything else is very adjacent to alcohol, so most people wouldn't assume it's alcohol because, like, a lifestyle event is usually an art gallery, or the sport is usually a fitness workout. So you'll know that there's no alcohol there. And then the hosts also have discretion to go use tags, so you can use like hashtags and tag your event
Okay,
as
like
networking,
alcohol-free or
alcohol-free,
something.
and then people can search by that. Yeah, so it's not directly there because obviously we don't want to make necessarily a stigma about it, but it's very, very legible to the user that something would be alcohol free or alcohol sold. It's not something we're trying to like obfuscate. People can really easily find that out, especially with the categories and the colors. We try to make it as friendly for you to find out exactly what that event is about. I mean, people, for example, ask me if we're doing something. They'll say, "Oh, what are the plans? What are the times?" And I'll just send them a link, and I just don't ask me again because like you'll find everything here.
Yes.
So we have tried to make it as user friendly as possible for that.
And for the actual user experience, like in order to view events, you've got to have the app, right? Or is there a web app as well?
No, so you have to have it, and we have. It's a question that we've come up with quite a bit, and people ask, and I understand that some people have trepidations, but for us as well, we want to make this a very personal experience. So when you're viewing an event, it's you. It's not anonymous. It's not your third account.
It's
It's
also
not
not a
branded.
ticketing platform. Like if you have a web-based site, it's transactional.
Sure.
You know, I'm going there to purchase a ticket. We're trying to build community. That is the goal. And like for a host or for someone who's putting an effort to create a community, like that, this is where you build it. You know, if it's all transactional, you aren't building a community anymore. So although it might lose us sales, it might lose us tickets. Like we are trying to create this hub of like a full ecosystem of people that want to get out there and try new things, you know, not just I saw your link, so I'm going to go buy a ticket and then I'm out of here, you know. That already exists.
Sure.
Like we are trying to create this hub of like 100,000 people in Cape Town all wanting to look for the next fun thing to do. And you know that if I'm hosting an event on this, everyone on there is already looking for something to do, you know? And if you have something amazing to offer, it's not like you have to go market this on Instagram and prove that you've got something cool to do. Like everyone on there is already looking, you know?
Yes.
So that is the end goal. And like we've been offered to turn this into a ticketing this, and we just like, we're sticking to our vision, you know?
That's why also on the platform you'll see the user's profile is linked to the event directly on the feed, because we wanted to say like, this person is doing this, not just there's an event on that's amorphous and it's just a faceless thing. It's like, this is a community, you know who's there, and then they'll see, oh, so-and-so is attending. It's not just anonymous or you've got 5 attendees. It's like, who are those people? These are real people doing real things, and you're going to see their face when you meet them, and it's going to be great. It's not just, how do we get numbers up and churn? There's enough of those.
People moving people is our like, what we're basing this off. It's not brands, it's you, Seb, moving people, you know? So that is like the base of it all.
And then speaking of ticketing platforms, you're very welcome to swerve the question, but there was some challenge you guys encountered, I think, with a ticketing platform.
Yeah, trademark infringement.
How did you guys navigate that? How did that come about? And what did that feel like?
I won't say names, so Jason.
have to say names.
Don't get sweaty.
How did it come
Jason's
about?
always like, Mike, calm down there.
And how did that feel? Like, were you guys stressed at all about
unintentional
the longevity of the business, or
So I trademarked this in Australia first. Like it was not even.
trademarked Howya?
Yeah,
with the
in
intention
Australia.
being how you're doing, like that.
how
was-
you do it,
The Aussies
you know?
will say, oh, how you
And
doing?
it wasn't even how you're first. It was howdy, right?
Okay.
We just loved the pin being the O. Like that was our
and
thing.
the greeting because you were meeting
And
people.
like hello, like we wanted it to. So howdy, and then we tried to apply. So that wouldn't have had any conflict, right? And like we tried to apply for it, and our lawyers were like, listen, you can get it everywhere except for Singapore. And they're like, if you want to be a global brand, we'd recommend maybe going for something where you can trademark it everywhere, you know? So we're like, cool, like you guys have a good point, let's see how we can play around. Then we trademarked it there, and then lockdown happened. So now we were stuck in SA, and we were like, we got to just make this work in South Africa, when we didn't actually mean to start here. It was like, tourism that side, people coming in looking for stuff to do. It was the place to launch it, you know. So then we got launching here, and we did a few like launch events. We did a big one in Joburg, we did a big one in Cape Town, and like these people from this other ticketing platform came to our events. They like befriended us. Jason actually knew them from work, and like they were very close with us. And they were like, "Can we have a meeting on Monday?" And we set up this call, and we had a big. It was like 5 people from their team. It was a big meeting.
And we like basically kids at the stage just out of university, so
No, we're
very
like
new to the
23,
industry.
24. Jace was like 23. It was like we were excited, but then they were like, "We would like to partner with you, and we'll run the ticketing." And they have a terrible name in the industry of like pushing fees onto users, and like they don't have a good name. And we all about the users. Like we want to be completely transparent. Like what you pay, here's your fees up front. There's no hidden fees. Like that's what you get. That's including the payment gateway. They always like, yeah, the ticket's $250, but through us you pay $280. There's not actually a way to get it for $250. That's the fees that we charge. So like it's like sneaky.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a little bit.
And we said no on the spot. On the call, we were like, "Listen, guys, we don't want to partner with you. Like, we want to kind of do this ourselves. We've already got ticketing in the pipeline. Da 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 da." Then 3 days later, we get a legal letter saying like, this is like four years ago, right? So we get a like cease and desist. They're like, they were so cocky about it. They're like, you can stick to funerals and this and that. They were like
Dictating
really
what you
fucking
can
with
do.
us.
Yeah.
Like really being dicks. Sorry, I
But
don't
you guys, how much business did you even have at that stage?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So they were like,
It was
Yeah,
it was choking because we had also not planned for this, and it's lawyers are
not cheap.
a huge expense and an
Bro,
unnecessary.
we blew a
expense
lot
of
of
time.
money for no reason.
Yeah, so a lot of cash that we were bootstrapping with, we are now spending on legal fees and not knowing what was going on and having to take the lawyer's word for it. And their incentive is to keep the case going because they're going to get paid either way. So
they just put you in these loops of like they know exactly what they're doing. Like it's 30 grand now, and they're like, "Yo, we'll send them a letter," and then they know like 3 months later, it's another 30, and then another 30, and then like eventually you might as well have them on retainer. You know?
And how were you guys funding the legal fees? Like,
So-
what was that? What was the source of that
Us.
for you guys?
Working
As in like your jobs that you had.
Yeah,
Okay.
jobs.
We like literally have it's Jason and I. Like I've had the best month of my whole life where I'm like, "Yo, I could imagine if I didn't have this dream, you know? Like I'd be driving a nice car, and like it all just. I remember like the 1 month I was so proud of myself, and literally like, I mean, you understand, like you literally take money and you're like, I'm back to zero again, and like it's like
weird. Yeah, I chatted to another entrepreneur friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh, so you're profitable?" And I was like, "Well, to be honest, nothing. I think for the next 10 years is going to feel like that because
Yeah.
anything you make,
It's
it
invested.
goes right back
Yeah.
in. So it's like, and it's even you have
this
those
is your asset.
exactly,
Like
exactly.
you're,
But it doesn't feel like, I mean, and you don't want it to feel, you're not walking
Yeah.
away with anything. It's like
Yeah.
you're growing the thing
Yeah.
or you're fighting some battle that actually is completely
Yeah.
like.
But then we
unfounded, I
changed
suppose.
in 1 week, bro. So they like actually dropped the final thing saying
We were gonna go to court,
We're
and
going
court
to
is-
court,
court is
and it's
very
like
expensive.
our lawyers said 200 to 500 grand, and like
Jeez,
it's
bro.
guaranteed 200 to 500 grand. You're in for it.
And then
so
it's
like
still you're
I
unsure what
drove
the outcome.
I drove to Jason's house. We had a quick call, and I drove there, and we sat down, and I was like, bro, if we just sit down right now, right by Monday, I will have all the content pulled down, new end cards put on with our new logo, and like Jace will rebrand the website and the app, like put all the sociable stuff there, and like by Monday they think that we're gonna come back with the lawyers. Meanwhile, we're gonna have a completely new brand, and we're not even gonna reply to them. So like we literally went hard with the rebrand, and like I found it even more fun because like imagine they think that they're gonna get some bucks out of you for like legal fees, and then boom, you have a
Just maneuvered, yeah.
Yeah, it
And
was
it
so
wasn't
fun.
like slow. It wasn't like we made a story about it. We didn't tell anyone about it. We just repivoted, rebranded, and in hindsight, best thing we could have done.
But that happened. But we took a huge jump now from COVID to
So
this whole
COVID was interesting for us. So we branded in COVID.
yes, and then you existed because I was aware of how
So we were building
for a bit.
Yeah, we were building the product out, but it wasn't ready yet. So that's when I started learning how to do development. Was then we had other devs, a whole long story, but I ended up taking on the development, so it increased the time because I had to learn how to be a software dev and build. So we only got the app really out even in a half decent place at the end of 2022. 2023 we started beta testing. That's when we were in Durban.
Running our own events and like.
And then shortly after this, you
And then-
get these dudes coming in.
No, we hadn't even had the app yet. We had the brand
Yeah.
when they started coming after us. We hadn't even had the
We
product.
hadn't even launched the product yet.
We had a
Okay.
They were
website
already
and we
after.
had a brand, and they were after
Like
us.
2021. Like we literally didn't even have a beta ready.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's aggressive.
It was, and also like we always say that the thing I wouldn't have minded is if it wasn't done in the manner it was, and they came to us and said, look, this could cause conflict. You guys haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
Rather, let's
It's
try and
so
see if we can work
impersonal.
it out. But it was, here's a message, like let's meet up, have a conversation. Boom, here's your legal letter. No conversations further.
Yeah.
And Mark even ran into one of the guys at the airport that Sunday after we had the meeting.
Sunday before the Monday.
that we got the legal.
And he felt weird. I even said to Jace, I was like, we just had a friendly call, and I like shook his hand. He couldn't look me in the eye.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where, in hindsight, if they had done it better, it would have saved them time and money. It would have saved us time and money. But it was a really good learning experience for us because how business operates, number one, how the legal system operates, number two.
And don't trust anyone.
Don't trust anyone, and also just to be in conviction about what you're doing, and also know when to pivot.
Yes.
Know when the time is, and then once you do it, lean into it. Don't.
We were a little bit cocky in the meeting. That's what I regret. Like we were a little bit dick about saying no to them.
But we were
Okay.
kids.
We were kids.
We were kids.
And we thought we had a brilliant idea. Like
Okay,
we were like, oh, you guys want a piece of this, you know? Like
fair enough.
now I know, like it kind of humbled us a little bit.
Teach you some tact.
Yeah, because like, what is it worth if someone's gonna come drown you in 200 grand's worth of like
Yeah.
legal
Before
fees?
you've even started.
Just to
Yeah.
be like, and there's nothing you can do. Like if someone came and like dropped a legal letter on your desk about Horizon being the same as this and they've trademarked it or whatever, like you really learn that the legal system is so shit. You have to go pay a lawyer. So like it doesn't matter if I came and said this is close to my name and it's like 3 letters off and you know you're going to win. If I come and do it, you still have to go pay a lawyer to like
Yeah.
send it. It's so shit. So like these big companies just have a retainer going and they'll just say like, go send that guy a lawyer, go send that guy a lawyer, go send, and they can just drown you. Like
Yeah,
they
they've
can
got
just drown
bottomless
everyone.
resources.
What the States it battles with, it's very litigious, and then people can just say, oh, okay, well, if someone comes to me, like, we have to change. And look, it might get better now because I think the trademark system is under a lot of pressure because there's so many trademarks and so many things. Nothing's really novel anymore. So we'll see how that plays out in the coming years. But yeah, it's something that you have to deal with that in business. It's going to happen at some point. You're going to run into something that's unforeseen that you couldn't have planned for, and it's something that everyone has to go through. Like when we first had it happen, we went to one of our mentors and he said, well done. He said, cool, you're on someone's radar and it's working.
It's
Well done.
obviously something that
If,
Yeah,
it,
it's
if this meant
exciting.
nothing, people would ignore you.
Sure.
But it meant something enough to do this. And he said, everyone that's ever been successful has gone through something like this. So well done. You've got one check under your.
That's a cool way to reframe it.
Yeah.
And what? So you guys obviously you've both experienced semi-stable regular jobs. You know what that affords you. You know the lifestyle. You know how kind of the day-to-day is of that. What was the allure around entrepreneurship, and why did you take the risk on kind of straying off of shore from like nice, comfortable, guaranteed paycheck to doing something that's fully your own, whilst having this baptism of fire so early on into it? I mean, a lot of people could have been like, fuck, like, I think I'm rather just going to like, fold and like go to something a little bit more stable than try and mess around with something that obviously, there's mission and there's a lot more behind it. But what was it for you guys that kind of lured you away from conventional work to being entrepreneurial, especially if you were tested like that at the beginning?
Yeah, I think I shared something on my story earlier today, and it was something along the lines of, imagine selling your potential for comfort and calling it happiness. And for me, that was a big driver in what I was doing. I know that my passion and my potential is in creating and innovating. It's always been something that I've felt a lot of allure to technology, to improvement, and to optimization. And I was trying to do that in my day job at a certain time. I was contracted out to a company. I approached that company with a few things that could improve them, and they said, don't even try because that person's going to say no and whatever. So I thought, and it stifled me a good few times before it really frustrated me. And then I started seeing the for me, what would have been soullessness that I would have had to sell. I would have had to sell my own fight and desire for that paycheck, which would have been selling my soul. And I felt that frustration almost instantaneously. And I would rather take the stress on this. I also said something earlier this week, which was it's not really a risk in entrepreneurship alone. There's a risk in taking a day job, and that risk is that you don't get to explore your passions and your dreams. And for me, I would much rather take the risk of the money side of things, because I know I could always make money somewhere here or there, than to risk my passion and wake up one day at 40 or 50, look at the guy next to me and say, oh, I wish I could have done what he did, but I didn't. I had all the potential to, but I didn't. Because that's going to stick with me for the end of days. Money comes, money goes, you know?
So for you, you were very connected to the opportunity cost of doing a day job.
Yes.
And that made it not easy, but it made it fairly straightforward in pursuing other interests.
I think I always would have pursued this, but it highlighted to me, as they always say, this motivation to run away from and motivation to run toward.
Sure.
And I had
Push
both
and
in that.
pull,
So
yeah.
I always had the pull to be an entrepreneur. I always loved business. I did well at business. I studied it at university. It's what I really enjoyed doing. So I always saw myself going down that route. But then going a bit into corporate, it was like, now. Like, don't wait any longer. Like, this is it now. And that pull and that push and that pull came at the same time.
Sure, I can relate to that because I had the exact same
Yeah.
experience.
Did you have a corporate?
I did, yeah. I only did a year and a half of corporate, but it was split into two jobs. One was I worked at an outdoor media company, in sales, and the other one I worked for a data and cloud consulting company, global company, very comfortable. Business development, so more sales. And like both of them at the very beginning, I found it interesting, and I don't know if it's like a little bit of like youthful arrogance, but I very quickly was like, I know the stuff now, and like it's not different, and it's the same thing every day, and I feel a bit confined, and I know that I like exercise and fitness and connecting with people, and I don't feel like this thing that I'm selling to people is truly something I believe in, so I don't want to do that. And then my mom died, and I was like, life is so short, why do you want to waste your time doing something that you don't like? I was like, that's a fucking sin. I was like, that is like the most, I was like, life is too short to spend doing something you don't like. If you are in the position of privilege that I am, where you have choices, make the choice that fulfills you and sacrifice a little bit of, comfort, because you're actually doing a disservice to the people who don't have that option.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think people who are forced into the position of doing jobs just for the paycheck, they would chop fingers off to have the freedom to
100%,
choose what they can do
Yeah.
with their careers.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, it's like it's
No,
a
you're wasting
major
out.
loser move, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you do have some idea of what you enjoy, and you have the option, you must do it.
Yeah.
And like my initial thought process was like corporate stint, build up capital, do the thing afterwards. That kind of made logical sense. My mom passing away fast-tracked that in a couple of ways. One being I had more access now to resources, and two, my perception of time and life was like smushed into I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, I've got to do it. But I think, I did a little bit of a corporate stint. And it's going to be weird because I think if this thing and like your guys' thing continues in the trajectory that it kind of does, I'm sure we'll preserve a culture of entrepreneurial spirit within the thing, but the thing is going to get very big, and that could change the dynamic of how it feels.
Yeah.
It might feel a little bit more corporate, but I also kind of think if you're influencing the culture within the organization, it probably won't ever feel like that weird dynamic you have when you're like pigeonholed into one thing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But
I want to be creative, but I can't, and sorry, stifled, you can't do that, or.
But that's where keeping your equity and your investment from the business side of the things is also very important, because the more you dilute, the more you're also diluting the culture, because you're bringing decision makers onto your board that can now pivot the company in certain ways. And if you don't hold on to your equity too much, someone can come in and say, this is what we're doing, and although it's against your beliefs and the vision for the company, you've got to say yes, otherwise the board will vote you out of a directorship or a CEO position and put someone else there that will do it, which is what happens at a lot of these other companies that you can see, and you go, I wonder how they got to that stage. And then it becomes that people that weren't attached to the struggle and the vision that got it there will then become the decision makers at the top end and try and optimize for just pure profit.
Yes.
So I think that's also an important point to keep your equity there and keep your vision strong in your business no matter what you're doing.
And it might be slower, but
Yes.
it's still, it keeps you connected to what it is you're building. You don't, like you said, dilute that culture and that vision. Michael, how was it like at Tones? was nutraceuticals that you guys
Tons
do.
Family Health, yeah.
Yeah.
So I still work there.
Do you?
I still like run the business side of it.
Okay. You
So-
do a lot of things.
I do a lot of things, yeah. So I've never ever worked corporate in my whole life. And like the closest thing I had to a steady job was a coffee shop I worked at in Australia. That was like it. And like besides that, I love creating businesses. Like from like 18 years old, I just like created products, like whatever like I could lean on to like get an idea. Like my family was obviously the easiest thing. I could be like, there's a gap over there, there's a gap for that product, and like if it helped me, maybe it can help more people, and like I would like create something. So like from like 18, 19, I was like starting brands, and then it just turned into like that felt like I was only able to do it because my family did it, and it didn't feel like a self-accomplishment.
Okay.
So I like quickly turned into like, listen, I don't want your help, I want to do like my own thing. And then it was, I feel like from my laziness, I was like very much a problem solver. So like if I was in the factory, it was always like I would find the quickest way. My dad wanted to